All right, can people hear me? All right, hey everyone. Okay, I am trying to see if you can hear me. So if you can hear me, can you just write that you can hear me in the chat? Perfect. Okay, awesome. We'll wait a few more minutes to get started. Perfect. So while everybody's coming in, will everybody write where you're coming from? So where are you guys watching from? I would love to know. Can you see me? I feel like my screen's a little blurry. Steve is in Montana. I bet it's beautiful there right now. Oklahoma. I'm in West Virginia, so we are kind of going across the states. Michigan, awesome. Hey, Lily from Illinois. Very cool. I've got family there. Florida. That's awesome. Well, I just moved to Morgantown in West Virginia, so I'm still getting used to it, but it seems to be nice. Alyssa, Pennsylvania. I lived in Pennsylvania for a time too. Veronica from Canada. That's awesome. Very cool. Hopefully we'll get some more people coming in. I don't really want to. And we'll get started on the presentation, and then I can't see questions when the presentation's up, so we will have to wait for questions at the end. All right. I don't know if you guys want to see. Come here, Maxie. Before we get started. Ooh, I have my little emotional support animal here with me. He's my little puppy. This is Max. So he's going to sit on the side while I talk. He may want to come on my lap after a while. All right. All right, so why don't we just get started, and then everybody can just kind of come in as they're able to, and then yeah, so that we can get started. And I know everybody's time is very valuable, so let's get going. Let me real quick get this up. All right. Okay, so welcome you guys. This is We Are Hers, Dating After Abuse. And let me just go through a little bit of what we're gonna do so you can get an idea of what we're gonna discuss. So we're gonna we're gonna do an introduction. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself, touch on the goals, the stages of dating. So we have pre-dating, dating, and the outcome of dating. And then we'll take questions at the end, because when I'm in the presentation mode, I can't see your questions. So I would love to answer all of your questions at the very end. So my name is Terrell Eric, and I got connected with We Are Her. I was following on Facebook, and I reached out to Stevie to kind of talk to her about the more business side of We Are Her, because I am the executive director of Awaken Justice, and we do very similar things. in the same realm. And so we got connected and we chatted, and then eventually she reached out to her audience on webinar ideas. And so I kind of just submitted that. And I love what We Are Her is doing, just empowering and, helping all of us as survivors on a healing journey. So I'm really excited to be here, to be doing this presentation, and to provide some encouragement to you. I don't know where you're at in your journey. Some of you may be not dating yet. Some may be dating, and some may be, in very serious relationships. And that's awesome. We can all benefit from these tools and from these questions. And really a lot of it is self-reflection and just determining what our boundaries are, because it's never too late to add boundaries. So I am a childhood sexual abuse survivor. I was abused by an older friend, an older female friend. I like to make that distinction because it's not normally talked about, that you can have female on female abuse, and it does happen. So it was something that I never realized was abuse. And so when I finally discovered that that's what it was, I was finally able to start healing, because I had, for my whole teen years and my dating years, it had affected me without even realizing it. I had no idea that it was really stopping healthy relationships from happening. So till I really addressed it and healed from that. And then, and that led me into being more vulnerable for the domestic violence that I experienced. I was in a 6-year domestic violence relationship that I survived and got out of in 2017. So I'm also the executive director of Awaken Justice. We do trafficking and dating violence education for students. So we do middle school, high school, and college age students. We talk about the importance of healthy relationships and where they're putting their identity, who they define themselves as, and what the red flags are for what an abusive situation or trafficking situation could be like. Because trafficking, majority of the techniques are being used for sex trafficking through pretend dating relationships, or even the real dating relationships or significant others. So we want to make sure that every teen and student has an opportunity to know what a healthy relationship is, so that they don't have to go through what we went through, unfortunately. So my journey, so I dated when I was fresh 21. I met this tall, dark, and handsome guy, and I thought that he would fix all my problems and that we would have this wonderful relationship. And I was just lucky, because I felt like he was out of my league, and things went incredibly fast. Within a week, we were sleeping together. A few months, we were living together, and by 6 months, I was pregnant. And so we were blessed with a son. My son is almost 7 now, and he was a true blessing for me, and he's the reason why I left at the end. But things went so quickly, and I know probably a lot of you can relate to that, how fast it is in that love bombing stage at the beginning. So I went through this, and I thought that he loved me, and I thought that the abuse was normal. And it was just because it wasn't every day. It wasn't, I wasn't getting bruises on my eyes or my lips. And so I thought, oh, well, this isn't abuse because he's not punching me in the face. He might be punching me other places, and he might be physically hurting me in other places and emotionally abusing me and financially and sexually. And there's different types of abuses that he did, but I didn't see it as that. He always framed it as my fault. And so it wasn't until a few years in that I was going to see a counselor, and they started talking about what financial abuse was. And I was like, financial abuse? What is financial abuse? And so I went and I researched it, and I was going down the list of things that would classify as financial abuse. And I was like, wow, yeah, I'm being financially abused. And at the end, there were like different links to, the different types of abuses. And so I was clicking on them, and I was reading through, and I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, I'm going through all of this. And it was like, it really was like a huge light bulb moment. And after that, I didn't leave for 2 more years. I believed that he could change, you know, and you know that they can't, but I wholeheartedly didn't want to give up on that marriage, but it took its toll on me physically. And so on the left, that's a few months free picture. I literally had just left a few months before me and my son were taking new family photos. And as you can see, I was super sickly, like just lost a ton of weight when I was in that relationship. I had a massive amount of health problems that affected my body in so many different ways. And so then a year and a half, so last July, I was a year and a half free, and I was very in the early stages of dating my husband. And obviously you can see I'm so much happier and healthier and just a total transformation, I feel like. And that's what you want your journey to be, is like every day it's going to be a little bit better than before. But then when you look back at the pictures, you're going to see a massive transformation. So there we go. Oh, I can see the chat now. Awesome. Okay. All right. So then when I met my husband, things were so differently. So this is pictures from our wedding. We got married in April. And this is my hope message for you, that healthy relationships after abuse is possible. When I started to date afterwards, I rushed into it. And then when I started to date, I had dated a few people, gone on a few dates. And then when I started dating my husband now, Ben, it was so different that it felt wrong. I don't know if any of you have started dating yet, but if you've gone through a healthy relationship after abuse, you feel like it's wrong and unhealthy. Like you feel like it's something not right with it, just because it is so different than what you've dealt with before. And so that's how I felt with our relationship, and how everything was just so respectful. And so I am happy to say that I'm happily married. We are so excited to be together here in West Virginia, and we're excited to see where our marriage goes, but we have such a strong foundation, and it does happen. You know, I just want to stress that so much, that it really, really can happen. So, all right. So some of the goals of the webinar. These are some questions that I wanted to answer during this webinar. How do you know if you're ready to date? You know, what are some things that you can do before you start dating? That is going to be in the pre-dating kind of section. And then we're going to talk about boundaries and what you can expect during dating. Like as a survivor, you know, what can you expect? What can you expect to feel? What kind of things do you need to do to help that be healthy? And then how do you deal with the hurt and the red flags that you could see? You know, what are you gonna do with that? And then how do you know when it's time to walk away and when it's the time to commit to that person? And how do you know that it's a healthy relationship? And then once you have that healthy relationship, how are you going to maintain that healthy relationship? So we're going to talk about all of that. It's a lot, but I think we can do it. But the ultimate goal of this webinar ultimately is to equip you and empower you, support you as you gain confidence that you are worthy of true love. Like, I believe it down in my heart. Every single one of you are so unique and wonderful as a human being, and you're worthy of true respect and love as with a healthy relationship, because you are the one in the dating driver's seat. So I want to emphasize this. You are the one who get to determine, you know, how fast you go in a relationship. You get to determine what things you're looking for. You get to determine your boundaries. You are in control. And I know that when you've been in an abusive relationship, you feel like you've lost all control. Like you have had another person telling you what to do all of the time. And this is not the case here. You are in control. Take your power back. And this is one way you can do it. And so I want to help equip you and support you in that, whatever your relationship goals or dating goals are. So some stages of dating. So we're going to talk about pre-dating. Before we go into the different things that you can do before you date, we need to know, why do you need to be ready to date again? Like, why can't you just jump right in? It's why is it that as abuse survivors, we need to take a step back and determine if we're ready? And because we've experienced all different types of abuses, and that is trauma. Any type of abuse that you experience, whether it's financial or emotional, physical or psychological or emotional, all of those are valid, and they produce extreme trauma that we've had to endure. And they also bring along low self-esteem, because we've been told that we're worthless for however long a relationship was. And when you're told something every single day, it becomes truth in your mind. And so you're not going to be as confident in who you are, and maybe not have a sense of who you are and what you like and what you don't like. And you kind of lose that sense of self, because abusers, they love to make you like an extended arm of them. And so they make you like what they like. They make you feel bad about the things that you like. And so then you just, go along with what they like in order to keep the peace. But then eventually you just feel like, okay, well, who am I anymore? So you got to kind of figure that out again. You're going to be dealing with things like PTSD and anxiety and depression and your triggers. Sometimes triggers happen for me at the most random times. I don't know about you guys, but sights and smells and sounds, there are different things that trigger me, different positions, different just things that all of a sudden will spark a memory. Well, then I have to deal with that. And so if you need to be ready in order to date again, because you're going to have to be able to cope with those things while you're dating. And you may have a lack of trust in your own decisions, and a lack of trust in others because of the abuse that was done against you by others. Learning how to trust your own decisions again, because you were told that, you couldn't make the decisions. I mean, for me, I know that at the end, when I was trying to leave, I had to ask permission for everything so much in my relationship that I had to call my parents and ask them for permission to leave my abusive situation. I was like, is this okay? Can I do this? And they're like, yes, you are. At the time I was almost 27, it's almost 27. And I was asking permission in order to leave it. Well, I didn't trust my own decisions. I didn't trust my own decision making. And so whenever you're done with an abusive relationship, you have to gain that sense of confidence in your decision making back in order to date, or else you're going to start thinking you're going to have a lack of trust in the people that you're picking, and you don't want to have that confusion. And then you got to deal with your unhealthy coping strategies, because when you're in an abusive situation, in order to cope, you have to develop strategies to deal with it. And really, it's an unhealthy situation, so it's going to produce unhealthy coping strategies in some ways. And so you need to be able to start changing those out for healthy strategies. And abusers prey on the vulnerable. And what I mean by vulnerable, because there's two different types of the word vulnerable, the way that they're used. And that's being vulnerable with another person, being honest and open and sharing your emotions. And this is a good vulnerable. And it needs to happen in a trusted, loving relationship, because if it's not a healthy relationship, they're going to turn and they're going to use that stuff to hurt you. But what I mean when it says abusers prey on the vulnerable is that you're vulnerable when you're looking for other people or things to fill some sort of need or void in your life, which then creates that codependent relationship, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people who need that, something filled. Because when you don't need anything filled, you don't need any other person, you're totally not willing to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to deal with this. And I found that in my case was that I just felt the need, I just was a serial monogamous. I would just go from one relationship to another because I just felt needed that loneliness. I just needed someone there. And I wasn't looking at kind of developing myself. So that's what I mean by when I say vulnerable, not the good vulnerable, which is sharing who you are with another person in a trusting relationship. So how do you know that you're ready? I mean, really, how do you know? Because it's so tough, knowing. And here are a few things, and just take it with a grain of salt. Not everything's going to really go with you, but this is kind of what I've learned in my own situation is you have to be starting to be equipped with the coping mechanisms, the healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with your triggers and your PTSD and your anxiety and depression. And you're putting them into practice because, and adding a new person in when you don't know how to handle them, that person, when you start dating, that person is going to trigger you, period. Like that's just because of the fact that you were abused if you were abused in some form of relationship, with another person, entering into a dating relationship with someone is going to trigger you in some way. And if you can't cope with them in a healthy way, it's not going to lead to a healthy relationship. So I really do recommend that. Have a support system in place because, with abusers, they like to isolate you from your support system. So get that back. Really get counselors, support groups, friends, family. I know some people have toxic family members, so you don't have to go to your family. Go to the people that you trust most, who love you and care for you. I recommend that court trials or anything to do with the court system, at least at the beginning, and divorce and custody are completely final. And this I learned from personal experience. When the court system is so emotionally draining. For me, I testified for almost 8 hours, and it was so emotionally draining that honestly, I just wanted someone there to help me through it, instead of leaning on my support system. And so I ended up in a relationship. Wasn't exactly, a bad relationship, but it just wasn't the best relationship. And so, and I pushed boundaries before they needed to be, I crossed boundaries and my own boundaries before because of, I was going through this stuff. I was going through a lot. All of those emotional things that you're going through is going to create a opportunity for people who are abusers to come and unfortunately take advantage. And so I do recommend that. I mean, it's hard. And I think, in general, like my husband and I had to deal with some custody stuff a little later, and that's fine if you have to continue to go through things. But at least in where the massive amount of court things are going on, I do recommend just leaning on your support system. Don't start anything new with somebody else. It could make you more vulnerable. So again, I posted this. So the picture on the left, I posted this quote that I came up with. Remember, you will see who they truly are when you say the word no. And I wrote this after I went on a date with someone and they pushed my boundaries in every single way after I said the word no. Like they did not respect them at all. And so obviously I never saw them again. But you have to have practice saying the no in other situations without an apology. No is a complete sentence. It is. It's a complete sentence. So be able to say, and I'm a people pleaser. I hate saying no. I'm always that, but I had to practice saying no because that's when you recognize when people are pushing your boundaries. And those are the people that you need to watch out for because they're not going to respect any kind of boundary if they even can't respect a small boundary. So, and then you need to believe that dating and healthy relationships are possible if you're ready. If you're ready, because I remember I left right after my abusive situation and immediately I was like, I'm never dating again. I'm never getting married again. That's it. I'm not doing it. And obviously I've changed my tune, but you have to believe that it's possible or it's not worth even starting to date. And you really do need to have full confidence that it's you. You provide your happiness, you provide your contentment, and you provide the definition of who you are. Because we've experienced people telling us who we are, and it was all lies, that we were worthless, that we weren't worth anything, that, we weren't good at anything, we never finished anything. What voice in your head is it that you need to tell to shut up, really? I mean, that's the one you need to say, no, those are lies, and you need to change it out. And that's when you know you're starting to be ready. And this is a side note, loneliness is a powerful, powerful feeling, especially after you've been with someone for so long. You want that feeling. You want the feeling of touch and hug and everything. So learn how to love yourself again. Get comfortable in your own company, and that's going to help you be confident in who you are and what you want. That you don't need another person. You may want another person to, to complement your life, to give you positive things, but you don't need someone to complete you. You are a complete person. You're unique. You're an individual human being. Nobody needs to finish you. Nobody needs to complete you. You are perfect just the way you are. So that's when you know that you're ready. So here are some things that you can do to love and be confident about yourself. Go out to eat, go on trips by yourself. I remember doing that after one of the relationships I had after my abuser, and it really helped clarify things. Like I said before, change out that negative, those lies thoughts in your head with truth. Once you start believing those things about yourself, when people start telling you opposite things other than your truth, you say, I'm sorry, not worth my time. You recognize when people start being toxic. So write down your likes and dislikes, get to know yourself. So here's an example of affirmations. This was mine. I put up on my mirror right after I left. Mine, I am a Christian, so it does have Christian base, but it does not need to be. It can just be statements of who you are. As I can say no, I'm beautiful, confident. You can say, I'm strong, I'm surviving, I'm a warrior, just different things to help you remember who you are. So you need to do some things before dating. And I do recommend these things just because it can prep you and it gets you ready for being able to look for the right person. So you need to start by writing down why. What's your reason? Why? Why are you going to date again? Figure out what the outcome is that you want, because you can't find someone who is looking for that similar outcome if you don't know what you want. So are you just trying to have a significant other? Are you working towards a marriage? Are you looking for just a travel partner? Are you just looking to meet new people and try new experiences? If you can figure out the core of your motives, you can determine, are you doing it because of loneliness, or are you doing it because, you're ready for someone else to just add value to your life? So that helps if you know your why, because especially if you start meeting a bunch of frogs that aren't really compatible with you, and you start getting, just discouraged about dating, you can look at your why and just be like, no, I'm not going to settle because I have this why, and this is what I'm working towards. Talk to your support system. They need to be there through the whole thing, because abusers thrive when they isolate you. That's what they do. So you need to be walking every step of the way with your support system, talking to them about your boundaries, about what you're looking for in dating, when they're going to meet them. So at what point, when it gets serious enough, when are you going to introduce them to your support system? And then how are you going to handle when they give you their feedback? These are the people who know and love you best, and they're the ones who can see some red flags when you can't. So it's important to have that line of communication open. Again, does not have to be family. It can be anybody you trust and who know and love you. All right, and then we need to write down all of our boundaries. You have to know your boundaries. If you don't know your boundaries, you can't stand up for them when they get crossed. Know your boundaries, because you are an individual, and boundaries show that the other person respects that you are an individual. So it's important to have those. And the fact is as a survivor, our needs are going to be different. So a boundary for us may not be a boundary for other people. For instance, one of my boundaries was the person I date could not come over to my house alone. It just wasn't, until I had known them X amount of time, because it didn't make me feel comfortable. I didn't want to feel unsafe in an uncomfortable situation. And someone who cares about you and respects you is going to respect that. And some of my other boundaries, for me, I waited. My husband and I waited until we got married to have sex. And now that's not what I'm saying everybody should do, but studies have shown that if you wait, the longer you wait and the more you get to know that person, the less attached you'll be in, the less likely you'll ignore the red flags. And for me, I found that when I was, finally sick and tired of the way that I was dating, I was noticing that my patterns, I was sleeping with them so quickly. So with my ex, it was 1 week. With my the person I dated after him, it was like a month. And then I realized that once I slept with that person, I just started ignoring all the red flags and started making excuses. And so I was just so sick and tired of the way I was doing things. Like I said, it's just not for everybody, but for me, that's what worked, because I started noticing, I reflected on myself and reflected on how I felt about it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should wait. So when I waited, that also eliminated a million people that who didn't respect my boundary. I had people like trying to convince me to do other things before marriage. And I was like, obviously you're not respecting my boundary, because you're just trying to convince me and coerce me to do other things. It's just not respectful. It showed me who they were at the very beginning. So personally, it helped for me. It very well could help. But as long as you have your boundaries and then you express them, you see how they react. And then you're going to write your plan of action for your boundaries. So you need to have a step-by-step of telling the person what the boundary is. Then what are you going to do when the boundary is crossed? You need to have an action plan. Really, this is just an example of mine, but just kind of general, if I've told the person about the boundary, I address it immediately after it's been crossed, and then I make sure they know how I feel. I stand firm in the boundary, and then I see what their reaction is. And if they take responsibility for it, apologize, change, I'm like, okay, I'll give them another chance. But then if it keeps happening, you see the pattern, it's not healthy. But then if they didn't know about my boundary and they say, okay, well, this is my boundary, I need you to respect it, and just addressing things immediately. And then just, if they don't respect it, what are you going to do? You need to be consistent and follow through with your boundary. So why are setting and maintaining boundaries important? So they show that you're worth respect and love. And I say this, so I'm just going to give you an example. My son, if I was to say to him, go clean your room, and he doesn't clean his room, so I say, go clean your room, or you're not going to get any, Wii U time, tonight. And so he goes and he cleans his room, or he doesn't clean his room. And I go in and I'm like, well, why didn't you clean your room? And he decided he didn't want to. I was like, if I don't follow through with the taking away the Wii U time, then he's not going to believe me when I say the next time, go clean your room, or you're not going to get Wii U time tonight. It's going to be like, okay, like, sure, mom, and he won't clean his room because he knows what the outcome is going to be. But if you set a boundary and you stick to it and you stand firm, there's going to be an expectation that's set of how you should be treated. And if they decide that you're not worth being treated, you will know real quick if they respect you or not. So that's why it's so important to have boundaries. And, with dating partners, so the people that you're like going out and going on dates with, hold them lightly, because they may not be the right person. They may not be respectful, or they may not be compatible. And so just hold on to them lightly, be willing to let go, because you don't need them. You want them in your life, but you don't need them in your life, and you should not settle for anything less than what you deserve. So, and then number 4, write out what you're looking for. So this is something that we do with our students at Awaken Justice. We write our non-negotiables. So what is it about their character that needs to be in a certain way in order to really, like, if it's crossed, if that boundary is crossed, or if that characteristic is not there, like, that's it. You just walk away, because it's not, whether it's they've got a tendency to be aggressive, or a violent past, or start pressuring you into doing things you don't want to do. If that happens, then you say no. You have it written down. You're saying, okay, this happened. I can't do it. Can't keep going with this relationship. And then what would be nice in that, other qualities that would be nice, but it's not necessary, whether they're blonde or brown hair or whatever, you know, and then the cherry on top, you know, a nice smile or athletic or, you know, things as you need to be looking at the character, because abusers are all words and not actions, and people with character are all actions and they barely say anything about it. So be looking on the lookout for that. That's a good kind of tool to help you kind of figure out what it is that you're looking for and characteristics. And then you need to decide to not settle for anything less than what you deserve, because you deserve the best. And I know that my abuser kept telling me that I would never be treated better than the way that he treated me. Do not believe that lie. It is an absolute lie. There is always someone out there who will treat you better. I promise you. And if they don't respect you, someone else will respect you and will respect your boundaries. So don't settle. And I love this quote. I saw it on Facebook the other day. And it's the one who avoids the conflict to keep the peace starts a war inside himself. And so I know this feeling very much with walking on eggshells with my ex, because I just wanted to keep the peace. I didn't want him to get mad because it was unhealthy. He was abusing. And so because he was abusing, I had to start that war inside myself in order to survive. But in a healthy way, in a healthy relationship, you're going to have conflicts. And it's just a part of relationships. But it's how that person handles it. It's how you handle those relationships that can show you that it's healthy. So find a relationship that you can be honest with them and open about your feelings, even if it's going to just bring up conflict, because you know that you're safe and that they won't react in the ways that your abuser did. So, and I put this in here. Let the facts about the person that you're dating determine your actions with that person, and then determine your feelings. So I let myself be led by emotions most of my life and most of my dating. And so I would just say, oh my gosh, I feel like I love this person so much, but we'd only been dating like a month and I didn't really even know much about his character at all. But I would let my feelings and everything go wild. And it got me in some really bad situations because of the fact that I would just believe the words that they said, you know, and it's not my fault. Abuse is never our fault, but I decided I was sick and tired of doing it that way. I said, nope, I'm going to have a relationship that I just base it on who they are as a person. I'm not going to allow my feelings to run the train. So you want to have emotions for somebody, you want to have that connection, but don't let your emotions try to drive the train, because a caboose can't drive the train. It doesn't have the engine. So let the facts drive your actions and emotions, because emotions can make us cross our own boundaries if we let them drive the ship. So you need to just focus on the truth of their character and go with that. So the second stage is actually dating. So what is dating? I'm talking about the going on dates with multiple people, just going and getting to know people. So as a survivor, it may feel weird and uncomfortable to be dating differently than you used to, or be in an unhealthy relationship, because what you know is unhealthy. So when you figuring out that this person is respecting you and they're healthy, it may feel wrong, honestly. Like I remember when I was dating my husband, I felt like something, like it wasn't a gut instinct that it was wrong, like it was bad, but that just, I knew it was good, but I just felt like this is just not what I'm used to. Really weird, uncomfortable kind of feeling. So it may just feel like really different to you. And that's a good thing if it's healthy, you know, and you're seeing the signs. You're going to learn about the more you date more people. So instead of going from one monogamous relationship to another, you take time to date other people in between and going out with different people and talking with them. You're going to start figuring out what you're looking for even more, and then learning who you are as a person. And you're going to be able to practice standing firm in your boundaries, practice dealing with conflict with people that you don't really have that major emotional tie with yet. And saying no gets easier over time. So if you just practice standing firm in your boundaries, it will get easier, I promise. So some tips that I found worked was ask the hard questions up front. If you know what you're looking for, don't waste your time, don't waste their time. If they're not looking for a relationship, if they're not looking what you're looking for in certain things, if they don't want to have kids and you want to have kids, if they don't want to get married and you want to get married, figure that out beforehand. Ask the hard questions up front. Just, I think the number one thing that my husband said when we were first dating was, man, you're just getting right down into the questions. You're like, no small talk or anything. And I'm like, no, it's honestly, why waste your time? Why waste their time? If you guys aren't going to have, the things that you're looking for in each other. And be honest and open about your past. But you don't need to share everything. It's share when you're ready to share. I kind of gave him an overview of what I had experienced, but didn't really go in depth. So that happens over time and when there's an increase in trust. But it's also being open enough and saying, listen, like, this is who I am. And if you don't accept that, that's okay. I'll find somebody who will accept it, So, find other things to do. You do not always need to be around that person, because that's how love bombing happens, is that you're constantly around that person all the time. And then all of a sudden it becomes that codependent relationship. And so find other things to do with other people, and you'll figure out real quick if they're controlling, and if they want to spend all their time with you and they start guilting you if they want to go, and if you want to go and spend time with friends and family without them, if they start guilt tripping you, then that's a huge red flag. So, and then go slow. Just focus on your foundation of communication, trust, and just remember, trust is built over time. And love bombing creates a feeling of trust because of the amount of time that you spend in a short amount of time. So you need to just remember that it's something that's built over experiencing different situations and things, and recognizing that they're dealing with it in a healthy way. And that's how they can earn your trust. So, all right. I'm going to try to kind of go through this so that we have time for questions. So the red flags, they use their words more than their actions. They're way too charming. And if they have to explain something to you that should be just shown through their actions, then that's a big red flag. If he says, oh, I would never speak badly about my ex, but then start speaking badly about their ex like the next day, that's conflicting. So that's a big red flag. Things that go up against your non-negotiables, talking or texting all the time. Like I said before, if you guys don't have a life that helps with the love bombing, you don't need to be talking or texting all the time. For me, that was really awkward. I always felt the need to like talk and text, and but then with Ben, it was very like, we would go hours and hours without talking, and that was awesome. It was healthy. Rushing the relationship faster than you're comfortable. I remember I went on one date with one guy, and literally like it was a good date. It was great. And then he texted me literally that night after I got home, and he was talking about how we should get, wonder how it would be like if we got married, and he would take care of me, and how he could take care of, I wouldn't have to worry about anything. I wouldn't have to work and just have babies. I'm like, what? Whoa. Like, maybe if I was 20, I might think that was like maybe an okay thing, but that was a huge red flag for me. And obviously I didn't continue that. So, and then they confuse you instead of providing clarity in your relationship. If you want a relationship and you're clear about that, but they're like, I don't know, they make you really confused. That's a big red flag. So look for somebody who won't take responsibility for things that they've done. That's a big thing. And start pushing people out of your life because they care about you, because that person's toxic, and you are the only person who gets to decide who's in your life and who's not. And nobody else gets to decide that for you. It's all you. So don't let them do that. Gaslighting, if there's any kind of gaslighting where they're like, you said something and they're like, no, you never said that, you're crazy. And you have that guts and it's like, no, I said that. Then run the opposite direction, because that's a massive red flag. And then if your gut instinct says something's not right, like not kind of like the feeling I had when it was like, this is not normal, this is not something I'm used to, but the feeling of like something is very wrong here and I don't know what it is and I don't have proof of it, but I just don't think I should continue this relationship. That's the feeling that you want to listen to. Run in the opposite direction, even if you have no proof. Just having that feeling is your instincts are on. You are hyper vigilant just because of what you've gone through. So listen to it. How do we deal with red flags and hurt in a relationship? So immediately, and by communicating. If something happens and they hurt you in some way, you know, then you need to immediately address it and saying it's not okay, and it's a boundary crossed where they hurt you in some way, and you need to see how they are going to respond to it. If they respond in respectful and they apologize, they take responsibility and they start working on things of how to change it, then you need to start watching that. But then watch for a pattern, because if they start developing a pattern where they still continue to do the same thing over and over again, they're not changing, they're just apologizing and then hoping you won't notice that they're not changing. So just if they apologize and, you know, just believe them, okay, you know, what are you going to do to help not do it? But if they continue to hurt you, you know, 2, 3 more times, then you need to decide whether it's time to walk away. And you have the power to do that. You have the power to walk away from these people, because in this stage, you're at the very beginning stage of dating. You're getting to know these people, and hopefully you've made the decision to not become as emotionally attached yet and just look at the facts first. It's hard to do, but you know, as humans, we all make mistakes. You know, but it's how we deal with those mistakes. It's, do we humbly come and apologize and then really try to change? Because a healthy relationship is going to say, basically, it's going to say, I don't ever want to hurt you. And if this is hurting you, I don't want to continue doing it because I care for you that much. And that's respect. But if they continually cross that and then continue to hurt you in that way, that just shows that they don't respect you and they really don't care for you at that point. So at the end, the outcome is it's time to commit and be in a relationship, or it's time to say goodbye. So when is this a good time to know? When are you going to know whether it's time to commit or it's time to say goodbye to this relationship? I can't tell you. It's all you. You're the only one who can determine that for yourself. Using all the tools that we've given, all the things that we've talked about, you've, you know, analyzed that relationship, talked about, figured out if it's healthy, seeing changes, not seeing changes, and then it's your decision to walk away or not, or to commit. And I won't be able to tell you if it's 6 months or a year or 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is. And if committing is not what you're looking for, then that's not what you're looking for. And you know your answer, but it's all on you, because you are in the driver's seat. You are the one in control. You have the power here because you get to determine who's in your life and who isn't. And that's an awesome feeling. So you committed, and now you're in a healthy relationship. So here are some things that you can look for at how it's a healthy relationship. They're going to encourage you in your relationship with your friends, your family, the people who are in your life, and they're going to encourage you whether you're there or not. You know, if they're not there, they're happy you're there with them. They're not going to guilt you for being out there with them. They're going to take responsibility and have action. Same things we've been talking about. They're going to change their behavior. They're going to respect your boundaries as they are. They're not going to try to convince you otherwise. They're not going to try to coerce you into different things. You're going to say, this is my boundary. And they're going to say, okay, I'll respect it. Done. No questions asked. You don't need to convince them that that's your boundary, why you have that boundary. You feel firm and confident with your relationship. You feel like, man, I know where I stand with this person, and I don't have to worry about him controlling me or taking, my finances, or, yelling at me when I bring up a conflict. I know he's not going to do that because over this time of dating, he's proven that. And so, it's healthy. You can express how you feel freely, and you're not walking on the eggshells. It's a horrible feeling to be walking on eggshells and you can't express yourself. So you can feel safe in expressing how you feel. openly, and knowing you're not going to get abused when you express that. And you're going to feel confident sharing those triggers that you're feeling, because you're going to feel those triggers throughout all this time, and you're going to be practicing how to cope. They're going to see how they can cope, and how can you maintain it. Just communicate. Always communicate that you're being triggered by something or hurt by something. You know, continue your activities outside of your relationship, and then just continue to reflect on who you are and what you want out of life, and how strong you are, and just remind yourself of what you've survived. I mean, you are so strong. So recognize that healing, it's a journey. You know, even when you're dating these people, they're going to have triggers, because you're in your dating relationship. The relationship was the one that hurt you. And so you're going to have those triggers, and it's going to be a journey, but you will go stronger every day. And I believe in you. So just some other things, you can empathize with your partner, because it's not all your partner's doing in order to apologize and change. You also need to show healthy relationship techniques as well. And just dream with them. Talk about everything. Don't hold anything back when you've already committed and you've given, you know, you've learned their character and you trust them. That's when you can start really diving deep into the relationship. And remember, only you can change you. So if you bring up something and they don't change, that's not on you, that's on them. But it is on you to decide what you're going to do with that and figure out what you're going to do next. And finally, please, please, please praise your victories, because it is so hard going through relationships after you've been through abuse, when you have triggers and you have downfalls, and you feel like sometimes you cross your own boundaries and other people cross your boundaries, and you don't stand up against it, you don't say anything. But praise those small victories when you do, because the more that you praise yourself over those, the more and more you'll end up staying with keeping your boundaries over time. I mean, I think when I saw my counselor, I dated somebody right after my abuser for about 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, I look back and I'm just like, man, I didn't see all these red flags, and I pushed them away and I made excuses. But then I still stood up and said, no, I don't think this relationship is going to work out. It doesn't matter if I pushed away red flags at the beginning. I still, at some point, recognized it wasn't healthy. I did that. And so praise those victories, because they are giant leaps in your healing journey, I promise you. So, perfect. We have some questions. I hope that was, I know it's a lot, but let's see, does anybody have any questions? The chat up so I can take some. All right, does anybody have any questions? All right, can you still hear me? Cool. Okay, cool, Stevie. How did you overcome the initial fear that comes with the first date? I did a lot of breathing, and honestly, like, I think I was more scared prior, like once I started the actual, you know, when I started the actual date, and I started getting a little more comfortable, but you just have to just deal with your coping mechanisms. Like, I just did a lot of breathing, and I did get to know that person first before the first date. Like, we did a lot of messaging on, you know, the dating apps and everything. And so I like talked to that person for a couple weeks before I did the date. So that helped, you know, slowing it down and just talking first and kind of seeing that, and then going out on the date. But then I was very strong in my position that I drove to the place. I did things that made me comfortable, and that's what you have to do. So, okay, so I have one's in the chat and one's in the question, so I'm going to go back and forth. So to the anonymous who I also self-harmed from my childhood abuse, and when you find, eventually, when you're ready and comfortable and you find the person who accepts you for who you are and the things that you've gone through, they're going to accept all of you. And I promise you, there is someone who will love and cherish you and respect you the way that you deserve. So whether or not you have that or not, because if they truly love you, they're going to accept you with everything, and you are strong and so courageous. And I just know that you will find someone, because I didn't think I would, and I did. So, okay, so how did you let your husband know when and if you're being triggered? How did he handle it? Okay, so if there was something that he said or did, I immediately said that it triggered me. I said, hey, this is triggering for me. I know you don't understand, but this is not something that makes me feel comfortable right now. Or just talking and just opening communication. He's amazing. My husband is wonderful and very open to listening. And he has never pushed me beyond what I'm comfortable with. And if I said I'm triggered, he has helped me through it, being like, okay, what can we do to help it either less trigger you, or what can I do during these moments to help you? So we kind of talked through that. It was, my husband and I have always had really amazing communication, and that's why I just recommend finding someone who you can talk with through everything, because when you feel open with somebody, you can just, you really can just talk about it and just bring it up. Just be like, yeah, this triggered me because of what I experienced. You don't even have to go into detail. With people who respect you, they don't need to know all the details. So awesome. Maria, thank you. All right, some green flag, good songs that you saw when you first started dating your husband. Okay, so when I first started dating Ben, the first thing that I really loved about him was we got in a fight, and I brought up things that he did that hurt me, and he apologized that night, but I don't know if he takes some time to process for him. And so the next day he calls me and he goes, listen, I was thinking about it and I'm really sorry. This is, I wasn't thinking, and, just apologized, took full on responsibility for what had happened. And then he started talking about what his plan was for changing and helping have that not happen anymore. And so that was a really amazing thing. I have never experienced that. I've never been with somebody who actually apologized. For me, that was amazing, because my ex would apologize really quickly. I'm sorry you feel that way, and stuff like that. But then that wasn't really apology, but never had somebody take full responsibility for their actions. And that was a really awesome green flag. So awesome. Okay. Melanie, you're so right. So right. Red flags come in little ways that are very, very subtle. Very, very subtle. Honestly, and I don't know. It's funny because they're so subtle, but then I didn't put up the boundary of not sleeping with somebody until marriage. And that was all of a sudden it was red flags everywhere. And because it's no guy wants to do that. And so it's you find the ones really quick who can respect you I don't reckon if that's not what you want to do, that's fine. That's not what you want to do. But I feel for me, that's what made it very quick in finding red flags. And also just little things, kind of noticing, how do they talk about, other people? Are they more negative towards other people, disrespectful towards other people? Because that's how eventually they're going to treat you. But yeah, they do. They come in little ways, and it's so hard. But just figuring out what those boundaries are, and then when you discover what those are, just keep going, because their boundaries are because abusers can't stand boundaries, because they really want to they want you to do what they want to do, and it's kind of like a challenge. So pretty much say you don't want to do something and see if they push your boundary, because that I have found that's really how it works. Another anonymous, thank you for sharing your abuse was from a girl. I also have never heard anyone say that. I feel less alone and ashamed of not knowing you are not the only one. It is like, I don't know why. It's just people don't want to talk about it, and it happens, and you are not alone. And because I thought I was so alone in it too. I really did. And I literally just met someone a couple of years ago that shared that with me as well. So you are not alone, and it wasn't your fault. There's nothing there that can keep you, down, because it's, it wasn't your fault. So, but I totally, I get it. I felt like if anybody knew, they wouldn't love me, and I realized that wasn't true. It was just a lie, that even if you experience abuse from, a girl or, anyone, if you are abused or raped or anything, you hear that lie of no one's going to love me now. That's not true. It's a lie. There's so many people who will love and respect you for who you are. So don't believe it, because it's not true. Awesome. Okay, I know you talked a little bit about healthy coping mechanisms. What kind of tips would you have to develop these healthy coping strategies? Childhood sexual abuse survivor, domestic, physical, and sexual. Dating someone who's respectful and caring, ultimately healthy, but I'm worried I might not be coping with the little things in a healthy manner. How can I make sure I'm dealing with situations in a way that's healthy for both of us? And it's going to be unique to your situation, because your triggers are going to be your triggers and how you handle things. But I found really that the best way was through counseling. And if you don't have a counselor, try to find one. Not every counselor will fit, so it's okay to try more than one. For me, my strategies were reminding myself of the truth. And in different situations, it's taking me a lot. I mean, developing these healthy coping mechanisms is very, very difficult when you've gone through what we've gone through. And so it's a process. It's slow. My cute little emotional support animal, my little puppy over here. I don't know if you guys can see him. I'm going to move this. He's like sleeping on my son's thing. Anyway, he's adorable, but he has gotten me through a lot. Where if I'm having a stressful conversation, if I'm having that conflict, I will start petting him, because it's calming, it's soothing. He's there with me. So that, and just breathing techniques, learning breathing techniques. It's really hard to say, because your situation is going to be a little different than mine. And my triggers are going to be different than yours, but finding an amazing counselor helps, and being able to kind of sort through it. And then also just open up and be honest with him about, I know I'm not handling these right. I just help, what can we do, and try to brainstorm together, because that would be a great way for you guys to kind of connect still. So especially if he's respectful and caring through it, and he's being healthy relationship. Yeah. he shouldn't, you know, he shouldn't feel bad about, you know, trying to figure out how to help you through it. So there's different things. So I wish I could say exactly, but I, you know, I don't know your exact situation. So if you wanted to message me, you're more than welcome. So let's see, do we have any other questions? I'm not seeing any. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys, here we go. I wanted to give you guys my, real quick before we go, I want to give you guys my contact information. So you can email me at director@awakenjustice.org, or you could send a direct message through my Instagram or my Facebook profile, or you can visit my website, terrajoy.org, or awakenjustice.org is my organization. You can learn more about me and my story at terrajoy.org. So, but if that's all the questions, oh, Lily, okay, I just got this question. It's a good one. What are some baby steps, actions you took to start taking your power back in decision-making skills? How did you notice some of them translate into dating? Okay, so the number one, so the first thing that I did to take my power back after I left was and this seems super mundane for people, but I hung pictures for the first time in 6 years. And that was a big thing for me because I was never allowed to hang anything. I was never allowed to put holes in the walls. We were renting, and he said, no, we're never going to hang pictures. We're not going to stay here. And so I was never allowed to put up pictures and make it a home, really. And so the first thing I did with my small little apartment was hang pictures. And it seems small, but for me, it was a big power thing. And Melanie, yeah, you open the windows like that. See, it's just the things that like you just, people who haven't experienced what we've gone through, like have no idea that even the smallest things is so powerful. And so, yeah, I just hung picture frames, and I felt like I was finally fully free, and it was amazing. And, you know, it was still a struggle. I had a year custody battle, you know, where I did testify, and it was like the longest year of my life, and it's horrible. But, you know, I just doing those small things that I wasn't allowed to do before, and being free and feeling like just enjoying it really helped me take my power, my decision-making skills back. And then really when they went into dating, I was at the point when I started really dating, and I had gotten into that. So after I was with my abuser, I left, and then I didn't date for 9 months. And then when I did start dating, it wasn't like I went out and started dating. I went straight into a monogamous relationship, and it was like the same thing kind of all over again. It was not something that I wasn't ready to do. I was in the middle of court stuff, and I was really emotionally vulnerable. And so, but when I got out of that and I decided I was done with this, and I started actually dating people, it was powerful for me just to date people and be like, after the second date, I feel like, you know what, this just wasn't, you know, this just not working for me. I just don't feel like we're compatible, and just end it. Like, that was powerful. Like, the more people you date and you realize, okay, this person, and you start making those decisions, then you gain that confidence. And I remember one person I dated, I asked him, I was like, so how do you feel about my son? Because I mean, at that point he was like 5, and, or almost 5. No, yeah, he was 5. He was 5.5. And I said, you know, how do you feel about me having a son? And he goes, well, you know, it's not ideal. And I was like, what? And so it was really powerful for me to be like, well, okay, well, this isn't going to work out, so thanks. And, you know, and just starting and seeing what I didn't like. And that was powerful. So just dating in general is, you know, when you're ready, it can be a powerful thing because you are in the driver's seat. you're the one making the control. You don't have to be with someone if you don't want to. And that's a cool feeling. So especially after you've like, for 6 years, you're like, you can't escape somebody. You know, it's just, I left with nothing and moved into a very small 1-bedroom with absolutely nothing. I didn't have a bed or a kitchen table or, you know, a couch or silverware or anything. I literally left with what I could carry. And so, you know, when you've escaped something like that, when you start dating, you take that power back. It's amazing. So I'm really happy. I hope I hope that you guys all got something from this, even if it's just to take away some little nugget of information. And I'm happy to talk with any of you if you want to reach out on social media. So I think that is all the questions or comments or anything. All right. Well, just remember, you guys are all worthy of love and respect, and you're powerful and you're in control. So thank you guys so much. I look forward to hopefully connecting with you guys on social media. So yeah.